Choi Sung orders Chang to keep a close eye on Lee, and to kill Lee whenever the chance arises. He says this is all for the sake of his brothers in the North Army Guild. Chang is obviously very shocked by these orders, but before he could say anything, a voice resounds. The wave has begun, and from the water, some fish monsters called mermen start heading their way. The hunters are pretty confident in the effect of Choi Sung's authority. They think this is going to be a piece of cake and they rush in to attack the mermen. Lee is shocked that these guys are acting so recklessly. They are attacking without a formation. Mermen might be weak everywhere else, but this is their home ground. And Lee's prediction is spot on, as these mermen start launching long-distance water attacks. The hunters get hit as they are caught off guard. Lee orders everyone to rescue the wounded and get into a formation. And hunters start to get back to their senses. Lee needs to figure out this situation before he also joins the fight. When suddenly, Choi Sung does an unexpected thing. He orders some of his troops to attack, and his guild members immediately charge into battle. Lee is shocked. He thought he had Choi Sung's plan all figured out. But why is he attacking so early? Seeing that the North Army has also joined the battle, other hunters also start following their lead again, rushing into battle as well. These North Army hunters start having trouble with mermen, and they need constant healing. Now Lee has figured out the last part of Choi Sung's plan. These hunters are actually the weakest members of the North Army. They are just here as fodders. Now Lee has a counter plan as he readies his spear and shield. Chang sees Lee heading into battle, and he is in a dilemma. He remembers Lee's words when he called the North Army a rotten guild, and now he is questioning what kind of guild leader sacrifices his own people. These are not the same childhood friends he pledged his loyalty to. Meanwhile, here is our boy Lee, raining hell upon these mermen, cutting them down like it's no big deal. Hunters begin to notice Lee, while Chang wonders how Lee got even stronger. He remembers Lee was around his level just 2 weeks ago. Has he even surpassed Chang by now? Voice appears. The wave has ended. There will be rest period. Some sponsors wish to give rewards to their incarnations. In Lee's head, he hears, "The Sky of Apocalypse is extremely pleased with your performance." And Lee receives a bunch of buffs thanks to his great performance. Meanwhile, other sponsors also show interest in Lee. Guardian of Long Lance is interested in you. Symbol of Spherical is interested in you, while King of Drenched is hostile towards you. Lee is excited about all these sponsors watching. He can get multiple sponsors like other famous heroes, but his hope fades when this happens. The Sky of Apocalypse expresses displeasure. The sponsors interested in you disperse. Lee is pretty shocked by his sponsors' behavior when suddenly other hunters run up to him to thank him. They ask, "Who are you?" They didn't know someone so strong was among them. Lee tells them to stay focused. There are many waves to come, and hunters are happy to follow his advice. But someone is very unhappy. Choi Sung sees that Lee is trying to ruin his plan. While Lee smiles, knowing he is getting control of this situation, Lee opens his status. He is already level 24, and he plans to hit level 30 in this dungeon. And as long as these hunters follow him, he can minimize losses and defeat North Army. In the next moment, 2 mermen are targeting Lee, but he blocks them and slices them right down the middle. Fast forward and they have already cleared the 4th wave, and their rest period has begun. Lee sees that these hunters are losing hope. Hunters have started to die, and they begin thinking that they might be next. Lee knows it was never possible to save everyone, but he is still sad. He angrily shouts at the North Army Guild, telling them to join the battle. He tells them not to play these hunters like fools. They all know that the North Army is using them. Hunters begin to shout as well, asking why nobody from North Army is injured, while others are dying. Choi Sung begins to worry that Lee is ruining his whole plan. Low-level North Army members also start feeling used. Choi Sung is angry. That person made this situation just for him, and Lee is overshadowing him. Choi Sung calms down and tells his vice leaders to stick with their current plan. Choi Sung is PK rank hunter. He knows that Lee is not strong enough to defeat him, but he will still wait for Lee to get tired just to be careful. Lee can say what he wants now, but he is going to die soon by Choi Sung's hand. A voice appears. The 5th wave will begin. The mid-boss has appeared, and from the river arises an absolutely huge water golem that terrifies everyone. Hunters are shocked just to see him, but water golem wastes no time. He launches a huge magic beam attack. Just in time, Lee warns everyone to dodge, and they hastily jump to the sides trying to save themselves. The golem's destructive power is truly off the charts. The attack was massive. Some hunters who are equipped with bows and arrows try to launch a counter-attack, but their attacks have literally no effect. All the arrows are just passing through the golem, so other hunters try to damage him with close-range attacks. But the water golem also launches his fists at them. A hunter dodges just in time and attacks the golem's hand, But it's no use, as Golem immediately slaps the hell out of him. That's when Lee starts making way for the Golem. He jumps in the air and coats his new spear with his fire, and the Golem is worried. Lee lands a hit right on the monster's watery face, and seems like his attack did damage him. The Golem falls into the water while Lee safely lands. The hunters wonder how Lee's attack worked. Lee tells them that this gate is full of magic power, and all the hunters in here should be stronger than before. He tells them to imbue their weapons with magic before attacking. This magic reinforcement is for stronger hunters, but inside this gate newbie hunters like them can also use it. A female hunter tries this on her arrow, and turns out it works. Their weapons are finally making a dent in Water Golem's health. Even though it's an inch at a time, they have some hope. Lee knows that these attacks are just too weak, so he takes it upon himself to end this as he starts charging his spear with a lot of fire. Lee stands in a position ready to throw his spear, but he is waiting for the right moment. That moment soon arrives when the Golem exposes its core, preparing to launch a magic beam once again. The hunters start scattering to the sides, while Lee is fixated on the target. And just in the perfect moment to strike, Lee throws his fiery spear across the battlefield. As expected, his attack is dead on as it blows up the Water Golem's core right down the middle. Voices appear once again. You have successfully defeated the mid-boss. Various sponsors pay attention to you. A few sponsors show their amazement. The sponsors are paying special attention to a specific incantation. Lee brings his hand out like he's Thor or something, and his spear actually turns around mid-air and starts heading back to Lee. Once again, Lee is amazed by Brock's craftsmanship. This return spell is pretty neat. While the other hunters are amazed by Lee, and one finally remembers that Lee is actually the rumored super rookie. They think Lee's power is like an A rank, and thanks to him they will conquer this dungeon. Meanwhile, some more voices appear in Lee's head, saying the usual level up and achievement unlock notifications. Lee has gained a water gem from the Golem, and Sky of Apocalypse actually smiles at him. While other sponsors start showing interest in Lee, Lee is happy. Maybe he will finally get his second sponsor, but his hope fades when this happens. The Sky of Apocalypse shows his discontentment, and the other sponsors retract their interest. Lee is pissed. Why is Sky of Apocalypse so selfish with him? Even though Sky of Apocalypse's sponsorship is top tier, he would still love to have more sponsors. Lee calms down when he remembers that Demon King didn't have multiple sponsors as well, yet he was so amazing. And that's pretty impressive. Meanwhile, Choi Sung is absolutely pissed. He thought Lee was a B rank. How did he get strong so fast? His last showing puts him near an A rank for sure. Suddenly Chang comes to have a talk with Choi Sung. Chang respectfully tells him that it's obvious that his plan is not going his way. These hunters should have been helpless by now, but thanks to Lee they are not. So it's probably time for a new plan, and he should give up on this plan for now. Hearing this, Choi Sung is fuming with anger. He says he would never lose to a brat like Lee, and he will definitely make his guild a central pillar of this world. He then shouts at the North Army Guild, making a fiery speech. From now on, the North Army will give it their all to clear this dungeon. All of his guild members are pumped, while Choi Sung smiles, saying the pride of a king never falters. But when he looks back, Chang has left, only leaving his helmet behind. This signifies that Chang has left the guild, because in a flashback we see that Choi Sung gave this helmet to Chang as a gift, as Choi Sung thought Chang's face looked too weak, and he needs to hide if he wants to lead this guild. Choi Sung sees this as a betrayal from his loyal dog and he crushes the helmet. But Choi Sung stays firm, and seeing all his guild members on the move, he knows these are just sacrificial lambs from him to become a hero-class hunter. On the other hand, North Army fighters are eager to show what they got, since they were on the sidelines for so long. However, seeing Lee decimating all the monsters all alone, they get humbled really quickly. Lee is out here destroying these mermen, taking down multiple at a time. A notification appears, you have leveled up. Lee remarks that other hunters may think Lee is wasting his stamina fighting all these monsters, but in reality, Lee is getting stronger by the minute, and it's all thanks to his player trait. Suddenly a monster tries to land a sneak attack, but a voice warns Lee in time, so Lee burns the monster to a crisp. Turns out this was the voice of Chang, and as it turns out Chang was not a guy this whole time. She is actually a top-tier waifu material best girl. But Lee does not pay much attention to Chang and leaves. Chang realizes that Lee is disappointed in her since it took this long for her to realize the evil of the North Army Guild. But Chang has severed all ties with the North Army, and from this moment forward she will go all out to show her resolve and her commitment to save lives. With this wave coming to an end, there are many dead monsters, but along with them there are many dead hunters as well. The The hunters are devastated seeing the deaths of their comrades, while Lee looks at them from afar, knowing that exactly 110 hunters entered this gate, and as of now, more than half of them are already dead. Chang tries to have a casual conversation with Lee, but before he can reply, North Army hunters start harassing Chang, calling her all kinds of horrible insults, but Chang stays silent. Lee asks if she regrets leaving the Vice Guildmaster position, for the sake of joining Lee's side instead. Chang smiles, saying she didn't leave the guild for Lee. Instead, she left it for the sake of her guildmates. It's because she cares for them so much, she can't let them continue to walk the wrong path. Suddenly, voices start appearing. The final wave will begin. The boss has appeared. A thunderous vibration is felt across the ground, and from the water appears something gigantic. It appears to be a massive worm with creepy teeth, and its size is truly something the hunters have never seen before. The hunters cower in fear. How would they even do anything to that monster? Even Lee is surprised. This is just too much. That's when Chang tells him that Choi Sung has a way of defeating the river worm. That mysterious person who set the stage for Choi Sung must have told him about the boss's weakness. But before facing the boss, they have another problem. Choi Su and other North Army hunters are here to hunt down Chang and Lee. Chang warns Lee and tells him to get ready. These guys mean business. While the other hunters are confused, why is the North Army turning against their fellow hunters? That's when Chang grabs everyone's attention to make a statement. She reminds the hunters they must have noticed how weird the North Army is acting ever since this raid started. She testifies as the vice leader of the North Army that her guildmates are planning to kill all of you hunters. So if they want to survive, their only option is to join Lee and her in this fight. Lee notices the change in Chang's aura. She is the kind of person who gets stronger and stronger the more you corner her. Meanwhile, the hunters believe Chang's words and they get ready to face the North Army. Choi Sung smiles. He is pretty confident that no one can stop his plan now. He calls upon the river worm, and strangely enough, the monster heeds his call. The worm sucks up water and spits it in the air like it's an attack or something. Suddenly Lee is hit with heavy rain. Seems like Choi Sung is changing the battlefield to make Lee's firepower weaker. Lee knows that if Choi Sung is successful with his plan, he will become the War King Gunther, the hero-class hunter, and he will go on to do all kinds of horrible stuff. But Lee has to put a stop to him. Choi Sung thinks Lee's fire is quite strong since it's still burning. In response, Lee fires up even more, and jumps in the air to launch an attack. Their weapons collide in a powerful clash, and the final showdown has begun. Choi Sung is getting pushed back, while Lee smiles as he realizes something. He launches another barrage of stabbing attacks, and Choi Sung is struggling to block all of Lee's attacks. That's when Lee stops and pulls back for a massive attack. And with this one, Choi Sung is pushed back quite a bit. He can feel the vibrations going through his whole body. Lee is too strong. Choi Sung is unable to believe his eyes. He definitely should be at a PK rank level thanks to this riverside dungeon. And he knows for sure that Lee was weaker than him when they entered here. Lee simply tells him that it's the truth. When he entered, he was definitely weaker than him. Choi Sung can't believe it. What kind of blessing gives such a boost in such little time? Lee replies that while Choi Sung was playing it safe trying to tire him down all this time, in reality, Lee was growing stronger by hunting monsters. Choi Sung is unable to understand what kind of ability is that. But Lee refuses to waste time explaining it, since he is about to put an end to Choi Sung anyways. Choi Sung starts to sweat. He knows he can't win like this, so he calls upon the river worm to protect him. The monster springs into action and attacks Lee with its sharp legs, while the monster puts its mouth behind Choi Sung, and he climbs on it, smiling away with a devious grin. But Lee knows that this is his chance, so he rushes towards the monster and Choi Sung. Choi Sung is confused. Lee shouldn't have known this about his secret move. The scene then cuts to the battle going on at the river bank. It's a fierce matchup between Chang and her childhood friend Choi Su. Chang pulls back and actually charges up for a massive attack. But as she lands it, Choi Su summons his strength and cuts the blast right down the middle, causing a huge explosion, with flying dirt and sand everywhere. But before even the dust settles, Choi Su emerges out of it rushing to land another blow. Although Chang is not the one to back down, so she attacks head-on as well. And the two clash for some more exchanges. Seems like the two are evenly matched. Chang switches her sword grip mid-battle, putting her whole strength into another attack. But Choi Su is not getting pushed back at all, and this high-caliber battle between two Vice Guild leaders rages on. Meanwhile, the scene cuts back to the river worm. Its mouth is actually closed, but as we take a look inside it, we see Lee and Choi Su having a standoff inside the belly of the worm. Choi Sung calls Lee crazy for jumping in the worm's stomach. But Lee already knows that all the worm monsters regardless of species have dry insides. It usually swallows its babies to keep them safe. Choi Sung planned to evade Lee using this parental instinct of the worm since the boss monster was in his control. But this mistake will put a final nail in his coffin since this is a dry environment. And Lee's authority is much more powerful here than Choi Sung's authority. Some voices appear. Muspel's spear is absorbing the fire. Your resistance to fire is temporarily increased. Your attack power is temporarily increased. Meanwhile, the river worm starts vomiting fire that Lee has burned inside it. And North Army hunters versus other hunters battle stops for a second to look at this situation. Surrounded by fire on all sides, Choi Sung is worried. He cries, he was destined to be a king. How could this happen? So he gets angry and clutches onto his sword, and he runs through the fire to finally attack and finish Lee once and for all, asking Lee, "What in the world are you?" But Lee shows no mercy. With one quick attack, he punches through Choi Sung with incredible force, ending him in a single blow. Suddenly, we finally see Lee's bracelet absorbing something. A voice appears. The soul-collecting skeleton has stored a hero's soul, and the skeleton's eyes glow blue. Lee finally understands what souls this bracelet asks for. It's not monster souls, but human souls, souls of human hunters close to hero rank. But then something even weirder happens. A voice resounds in Lee's head. The Sky of Apocalypse has ordered the end of the ruler of Riverside. All sponsorships of the ruler of Riverside have been terminated. Lee is absolutely shocked. Is it really possible a sponsor got terminated just at this moment? How and why did Sky of Apocalypse do such a thing? In response, he just hears, "The Sky of Apocalypse smiles at you." Lee is confused as he looks at Choi Sung's sword. The Demon King's book said the sponsors can never die. When suddenly Choi Sung's sword disappears in a black mist, and a red-eyed raven appears out of it. The raven says that Lee has not answered Choi Sung's last question when he asked, "What in the world are you?" Lee takes a moment to gather his thoughts. He will be the one who's gonna change this world, and he is not planning to be a nice guy. He is willing to take all the sins of this world upon himself, and to fulfill the Demon King's failed mission, he will have to surpass the Demon King himself. So Lee answers, "I am Demon God." A voice appears. "The Sky of Apocalypses supports your decision." The raven hears this and calls it an interesting answer and disappears, saying it will see Lee soon, while Lee tells the raven to take this news to his master. And finally, a voice says the boss has been defeated, and outside we see the river worm burning to a crisp from inside out. The giant monster falls into the water and steam builds up. The hunters see the slain monster with a look of worry and relief, while the North Army hunters are scared and anxious. The monster's body is not moving, it's continually getting burned, and from within it emerges a lone man, the victor of this battle. Hunters rejoice, their guy won. Lee smiles, knowing this is finally over. A bunch of voices appear in Lee's head. "You have contributed the most. You have received the essence of water, and a bunch of achievements. You have leveled up. You have leveled up." Next, we hear Chang's voice telling Lee to watch out. Choi Su is fully powered up to land a sneak attack on Lee to avenge his big brother. Thanks to Chang's warning, Lee blocks the attack in time. Choi Su screams, "How could you do that to my big brother?" Lee looks at him like, "You guys started this whole thing." Choi Su lifts his sword for another attack, but Lee is quick to spot an opening. He bashes Choi Su with his shield in the stomach, and Choi Su goes flying away. This guy is no match for Lee, but he doesn't stop trying. He is trying to get back up when Lee puts his spear on Choi Su's throat, warning him to stay down. He is obviously scared, so he freezes for a moment. Lee calls him and his guild trash. These guys don't deserve to be called hunters. All they ever did was try to do horrible things to the weak. The only reason Choi Su is alive is because Lee has already killed a man today. He doesn't want to do it again. He tells Choi Su to live a life repenting for all the horrible things he has done. But Choi Su is pure evil. He has no remorse. He literally tries to stab Lee while his back is turned. Truly a pathetic move. When suddenly Chang springs into action and she cuts down Choi Su. Choi Su acts all betrayed and sad. But let's be real, nobody has empathy for him, and he dies with his face facing the ground. Out of nowhere, the skeleton avatar absorbs another soul. Lee asks how Chang is feeling after all this, since these guys were everything to her. But Chang's regret is she could have saved them if she had done something sooner. Lee tries to console her, telling her she is different from these guys. But Chang has other plans. She decides to never take up the sword ever again from this moment forward, and she goes away, leaving the sword plunged into the ground. Lee is thinking, he can't lose a powerful ally like her. He has to bring her back, but now is not the time. Now Lee is back from the dungeon with all the hunters, and the press is treating them all like celebrities, taking photos and stuff.